Hi, I'm Dale Jordan, one of the FTAs for Oregon, and I've been so for a number of years. In the off-season, I travel around the state performing training classes for anybody that's looking to learn more about the robotics, primarily new coaches and the like. And out of that has come a number of questions that people have had from both new and old coaches that have been around. And so I'm just going to briefly go through some of those. There'll be more details in a follow-up on the ORTOP newsletter that'll be coming out where I can go into more depth. The first question that comes up is, can we use our old ZTE phones this year? And the answer is yes. There are a number of new phones out and everything like that, but you should find that if your ZTE phones are still functioning, they will work just fine and be very competitive with everything else. One thing you'll want to be aware of, though, is the USB connectors tend to wear out on them. And at the end of last year, we were seeing a number of phones that had bad connectors. Now, the cables themselves, they will wear out a little faster than the phone connectors, so you can swap cables quite often. But when it comes down to the end, when that connector gets loose, your phone is done. Another thing we've seen with the ZTE phones that apparently other phones might be a little better is you want to keep your batteries fully charged as much as possible on these phones. If that's the case, then they will work just fine this year and save you some money. Another question is, do we face the same USB reliability issues as we did last year? And a short answer to that is yes, we do. There have been some changes in the spring last year where they improved the firmware that your match wasn't lost if you had an intermittent on your USB connection, because it would restart in a second or two. So that is still going to be the case this year, but it's still very important to keep those connections tight, secured, just like we did last year. And again, we'll follow up probably with some pictures and the like to help emphasize that fact later on. In a similar vein, is electrostatic discharge going to be an issue? And the answer is, for Oregon, it's kind of a moderate issue. Our humidity levels are high enough that most tournaments, we don't see that as a problem. And that's related more to the types of wheels and stuff you have on your robot than anything else. Since it is related to the types of the wheels, we did find last year that one wheel in particular caused us all sorts of grief at almost any level of humidity. One tournament in particular, we were around 50%. It was pouring down rain outside, and a team could routinely generate enough charge buildup on a robot to lock them up. And those wheels were the Andy Mark Stealth wheels. They have very good traction. Teams really like that. But as teams last year discovered this and they went back to the old Tetrix wheels, their performance got a whole lot better. Another thing with the teams that have been around before, they go, should we update our modern robotics modules to the latest firmware? That means sending them back, paying the money, and modern robotics will update them, and then in the future you should be able to upgrade them from the field if they make any additional changes. I think that's pretty much a team decision whether you want to do that or not, because it does cost a fair amount of money depending on the modules and the backups you have. But we've noticed that there's one big benefit that's not advertised in that, and that's the 35-second power cycle time that we went through before. That's not necessary. Just a few seconds of power off time, and they do come back up. And we found for our events and our outreach activities that makes a huge difference. If things go wrong, we can cycle power, and we don't have to always remember to wait 35 seconds. So you might consider that and how that might impact your practices. And one thing that's recently come up now that FIRST has announced that they were using the beacons and they're very much like last year's beacons, can we reprogram last year's beacons for use in practice this year? And the answer is yes. ORTOP has ordered a number of programmers for the old beacons, and we're going to be sending them out to one per every league. That gets us pretty good coverage across the state. So you should contact somebody in your area to make an arrangement to get your old beacons programmed. We know that there are a few other areas that are really remote from any league activity. And for those, if you'll just send back the beacon circuit board to ORTOP, we will reprogram it and then mail it back to you. That's all for now.